Hello, hello. Today I have all of my foundation brushes to show you, and I'm going to be destashing a few. And I'm also going to be explaining why I keep certain brushes and which ones are the most useful for what types of foundation or what kinds of preferences. So I'm grouping them by sort of their shape and their material, but if you want to know what brushes I'm talking about later on, you can go look in the description. I have a Google Sheet linked. If you go down to the bottom row and click base, all of these brushes are there and they're listed by brand alphabetical order. Because if I were to do this video by brand alphabetical order, it would make no sense. In this sort of material shape grouping, it makes much more sense if I'm going to be talking about function, which is ultimately the most important feature when it comes to brushes, in my opinion. So we're going to be starting out with these sort of flat-topped brushes. So I have synthetic ones here and then dual fiber ones here. So we're going to be talking about these three first. So the great thing about these flat-top synthetic brushes is you can use them with pretty much any formula. So creams, powders, liquids, they all work great with these. So what you essentially have is a big round circle, and then you use that to buff in foundation. So with this brush, the Sigma F80, I really prefer to spread the foundation all over my skin first, and then go in with this brush to really buff it out. This is a medium to larger size. It'll be a little bit faster than using any of these smaller brushes. Fortunately or unfortunately, these two are discontinued. But I just pulled them out to show you sort of like the merits of a synthetic foundation brush. This was one of my first ones that I ever bought, this BH Cosmetics one. So I'm keeping it for sentimental reasons. But this one, the Philosophy Supernatural Airbrush, I actually still use on a semi-regular basis because if I'm having really bad breakout and I pack this on, it goes on with really full coverage because it's so short and densely packed. This one is much looser, so you're going to get medium coverage off the bat, whether you use powder, liquid, or cream foundation. This one isn't ideal for the cream foundation I use because it's very thick. However, if you have like sort of a fluffier, looser mousse cream foundation, this will work pretty well on it. However, because the bristles are kind of a little bit sparse at the tip, I would recommend spreading your foundation on your skin first, regardless of the formula you're using, unless it's powder, and then using this brush to buff it up. Because if you like squirt some foundation on the back of your hand and then go in dip like this, you're going to lose a lot of foundation into the core of it. And it's also going to be harder to wash because then it gets pushed in the middle of the brush. And that's always really annoying to try to wash out because it takes several rinses and squeezes. So overall, F80, I quite like it. This one was gifted to me, but I do really enjoy using it, and I will be keeping it. Next up are the dual fiber brushes. So Sonia G, base one, I've got at least two videos, talking about this brush and using it. I solidly like it. The only reason I prefer the Merrill Norman, this is a Hakuhodo OEM more, is because it is angled. So it allows me to get into the corners between my nose and my eyes more easily. But otherwise, they're kind of the same. According to my sister, who has more sensitive skin, the Sonia G is a touch softer. But because this one's angled, she prefers the shape of this one better, as do I. It's very soft and it is smaller in size. If we compare it to the F80, you can see that difference. This is suitable for blush, like very suitable for blush, as well as for cream contour because you can fit it in the hollows of your cheeks. So if you don't mind spending a little bit more time doing your foundation, this is a great one to have. It's quite soft. You don't really feel the goat hair at all, and it's got a resilience that the F80 doesn't have, so this one is good for me with cream foundation. Likewise with the Merrill Norman, this is angled. It's pretty much the same concept. Because of that angle, it does have a little bit more surface area to it. If you're interested in this one, you can go find it on the Merrill Norman website, or you can look for the Hakuhodo G555. Overall, pretty great brushes. This is the Hakuhodo B4001. It used to be called the J4001. If you can see the fibers here, there's a little bit less difference between the goat fibers and the synthetic fibers, about 2 millimeters clearance. This one has a 4 millimeters clearance, so all you really feel are these sort of wispy synthetic brushes, synthetic bristles, and they feel really, really silky, which is really nice. However, it is more of a sparse brush, as you can see. So this one is best for if you want only very, very light coverage with powder foundation. I wouldn't really use this with liquid foundation, even though for a while, maybe like 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was all the rage to use these dual fiber brushes to apply foundation for that airbrush look. Yes, it does look very great, but it'll pretty much be a single use because all of these thin fibers up here will clump together and you'll have to wash your brush before you can use it again. So if you're going to use this brush with foundation, it's pretty much a powder exclusive brush. If you're going to use it with liquid foundation, it's going to look fantastic for one use, and then you have to clean your brush off before you use it the next time. Overall, I prefer to use this as more of a face powder brush when I do reach for it rather than a foundation brush, but I do know that it is used as a foundation brush, which is why I'm mentioning it in this video. I almost didn't include it. So all three of these I will be keeping, sort of. This one I'll be giving to my sister because she really enjoys using it, and I'm going to keep the Sonia G to use for myself. Next up, we're going to continue with the circle trend. We're going to look at these circular natural goat hair brushes. So let's talk about these two. Or rather this one. This is the Koyu Dofu Pa 01 that I really love using. It's been discontinued. The Fupa line has been discontinued by Koyu, and they've been replaced by an all-synthetic range. However, Hokodo, this is made of Tankoho. Hokodo has a hair Saukoho brush that's almost exactly the same size. It's a little bit less dense, but functionally they're pretty much the same. Speed-wise, I feel the same, and softness-wise, I can't really tell a difference. So let's see if you can see the spring back with both these brushes. They're pretty much instantaneous and the same, so they have the same density, pretty much the same shape, so it's the same speed. The Sokoho is a little bit more flexible, and that's why I'm wondering if it's not actually less dense than the Fupa. Maybe it just feels less dense because the Sokoho hair is more flexible than the Tankoho. But if you really, really want a Fupa 01 and can't get it, definitely look into the Hokodo. I have both of these brushes mentioned in my cream and dry skin makeup brush pairing video, so go check that out. I'll try to remember to link it in below. So overall, these are very fast. It takes me under a minute to do my foundation, my whole face with either of these brushes. And they're just really, really nice. This one's a little bit of a unique one. This is the Tsukuhodo T3. It's a little bit smaller for a foundation brush. So here's the Sonia G to compare. So it's actually smaller than the Sonia G. But because of this like little bit of a curve, and how much it spreads relative, it actually covers the face faster, I find. This one took me a while to appreciate, but now I really love it. So being about the same size as the Sonia G, you can use this for cream blush and cream contour. So this one fits really well on like pretty much any part of your face that you want to put it. The only drawback is, again, it'll be a little bit slow, but that's not too huge of a problem for me. If I want fast, I reach for one of these brushes. If I can afford to take more time, I use the T3. And especially if I'm doing my makeup quickly somewhere, I'll stick this in a brush pouch with a net over it and then do both my foundation and my blush. So this one is made of Saikoho goat hair, which is unusual because Saikoho is the most soft and the least firm of all the brushes. This one is made of Sokoho. This one is made of Tankoho. And then this one is made of synthetic blended into Haku Ototsuho. The reason for Haku Ototsuho is because it's more stiff and it provides more resilience for that quick spring back and that resilient feeling. This is all Psycho, hence it's much more flexible and it feels softer on the face. We did a foundation brush rankings with most of these brushes, and this was one of the preferred brushes over the other flat top brushes like this one and this one. So this one is really beloved. Only problem is you gotta get over the size. Continuing with round brushes. So one of these is a classic. This is the Bobbi Brown full coverage face brush. Synthetic bristles with this nice domed shape. Very, very soft. The only problem is it's not great with cream foundation. It's wonderful with liquid foundation. When I was using the Estee Lauder Double Wear, I went through one of these, because it was my only foundation brush, pretty much, aside from the BH Cosmetics. So this is my second one. And I'm ready to let this one go because it's pretty much good for powder foundation and liquid foundation, but it's a little bit small for my liking. So because if I want to keep a liquid foundation brush, I would keep the Sigma F80 instead. So this one I am going to be destashing. Likewise for the Urban Decay, this is the Optical Blurring F105. As you can see as I'm running my fingers through, they're both fairly flexible brushes, which gives you a beautiful airbrushed finish with liquid foundation and cream foundation. But just the way it performs with me, I prefer other brushes for my cream foundation. This one works very well with powder foundation. I'm not sure what it is about the Urban Decay one, but it picks up and distributes powder foundation better than the Bobbi Brown one. I'm thinking it might be the difference in the hair type. They're both synthetic, but they probably have a different bristle, synthetic bristle type in them. But these I will be both destashing. Lastly, we have these two brushes. This is the Sigma offshoot brand Pract. This is their foundation brush. And this is the Sephora Mini Mineral Powder 45.5. The full-size brush is number 45. With these brushes, they're more like if I need something to finish off my foundation. These aren't really foundation brushes for me because they are quite small. To give you an idea, here's the Supernatural Airbrush. And then here's the Sonia G. So this is much more of a blush brush for me. And this one is just small enough that I can pretty much stick it anywhere I want. So I used to carry in my Go kit. If you've seen my little brown thing with the flap, this fits in there. So I used to carry and use this one a lot. I'm going to keep this one because it was a gift, and I'm going to keep this one because it makes a great blush brush. It's not really a foundation brush for me. It's a blush brush for sure. So out of all of these brushes, my favorite of the round brushes would probably still be the mineral mini powder or mini mineral foundation. Yeah, mini mineral powder. Because of the small size. I don't know if I would like it so much if it was the big size. Okay, moving on into other brushes. So now we get into the more paddle-like shapes. Well, this one's just a weirdo. So this is the Bishodo BFD01. This is Psycho hair. The difference between this one and this one, which is both Psycho hair, is this one's much less densely packed, and this one's super densely packed. This one's almost like a sponge. I handed this brush to somebody who had no knowledge of makeup brushes whatsoever, and then he pretty much told me, this one feels like a sponge, and he's 100% correct, because I think that's what it was made to imitate, like one of those puffs. Great with cushion foundation, great with cream, great with liquid, not so great with powder because of the shape. It doesn't give you quite enough surface area to pick up and distribute. You end up packing a lot, and it looks really heavy and cakey. So this is a cream/liquid foundation brush. And again, with liquid foundation especially, I would spread it on your skin first into as thin a layer as you can, and then take this brush and buff it out. Because otherwise, you end up getting hairs. You end up getting foundation down into the hairs here, and that's never any fun to clean out. The next one is the Fupa 07. This one has been discontinued. This is made of baby goat chest hair. They don't specify the grade, but to me, it feels at least as soft as the Fupa 01, maybe just a little bit less so. So this one was made famous by Sonia G as a mini Ray Morris radiance brush. And I really do love using this one because you just kind of like wipe it all over your face and then your foundation's blended out. And then because of that flat edge, you can use it for contour, you can use it for blush if you wanted to, and you can just really do your whole face with this. It's really, really nice. So if you can find one secondhand, I would definitely recommend picking it up. Lastly, we have lastly of this series, we have the Koyu Fupa 13. So this one is a little bit oddly shaped. So see if you can pick out all the sort of angles on that tip. So you have 1, 2, and then this sort of like flat foot here. So what this flat foot allows you to do is really get into places like the inner corner of your nose and eye, and then just really sculpt and contour your face. This one for me is more of a concealer brush than a foundation brush, even though you can use it for foundation. It just takes a while, and it would actually take longer than one of these small brushes like the Sonia G base one. Because with the base one, you can really swirl in a circle. With this one, you kind of have to use like more like dragging strokes and then like more like J strokes where you drag it and then blend, drag it, and then blend. So even though this looks like it has more surface area than the Sonia G, because of the way you have to use it and because it's more flexible, it takes you a little bit longer. So this is more of a detail brush or a sort of detail finishing brush. So you add your highlight, add your blush, add your contour, maybe like put some concealer on and then like spot conceal an area. That's what this is good for. And then another weirdly shaped brush is this Shakuda. This is from the Misumi series. As you can see, the ferrule is like a triangle shape and it's angled. So this is the 302 foundation brush. For me, I don't really like using it with foundation again because it doesn't really work in that circular motion like the circular brushes do. So for me, this is another detail finishing brush. So because of that tip, you can really get it into a corner. Again, your inner eye or nose corner. And then contour with the brush. And of course, blush. And if you wanted to, you could use the edge for highlight, but I wouldn't because it's a little bit too flexible for that. So blush and contour is pretty much where this is stuck with, as well as under eye concealing, because you can really like just pat it out and blend it out by blending in downward strokes from the center out. So then you get a really nice finish. This one is synthetic and goat blend, I believe. And that's what the salt and pepper comes from. And this is probably the least impressive of my brushes so far, but because it's fairly new, I am going to hang on to it and see if I end up loving it more like I did with the T3. I wasn't terribly impressed with the T3 at first until one day it just sort of like clicked, like, oh, this brush is great. So I'm kind of hoping the same thing happens for this brush. And then the next few brushes are all going to be sort of under eye concealing brushes. So this is kind of a base / foundation video. So this is the Bare Minerals blurring buffer. So this is a very, 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 very densely packed synthetic brush. And then basically, if you like stamp stuff on with it, you're going to end up with full coverage. So if you have really dark eye circles, this is a great one to do the color correcting. And then if you pack powder on, this is another good brush for doing that. It's a really good brush for just sort of detail work. I don't really use it for contour. I could, but I have other brushes I like doing for it. This is pretty much a area spot coverage and under eye brush for me. This is the Philosophy blending brush. One of the first foundation brushes I got. I really like the unique tapered shape on this one. So it's round and it comes to a point. So again, this fits really well under the eyes and the nose and as well as on the cheek. So this is a great cream contour one. I see them floating around once in a while, but again, this one has been long discontinued. I'm keeping this one because I really like the look of it. Like having that little notch there is actually really nice. Otherwise, I end up holding brushes up here sometimes. Having that notch kind of just reminds me to take it easy and hold it a little bit further back. Forgot this one. This is the Sonia G mini base. This one comes in a Kayaki set. This one is brilliant for under eyes. It's a little bit more flexible, so it's more going to be of an airbrush finish. This one will be super heavy coverage. This one will just be light coverage, and it just feels so nice and so pleasant. So you just like dab some product on under your eye, and you go in with this one. You kind of just like buff it out, move it around. It's just very, very nice, and because it's so compact, it feels great. I mean, it travels great, and it feels great, of course. This one I don't really use for foundation because it is so darn small. Yes, the Sephora 45.5 is about the same size, but because this one is denser, I don't really have to pass over an area so much to be able to get my foundation seamless. This one I have to do quite a few more passes over with it. So this one takes about, I would say, probably 30% more time to do my entire face than this one does. And then rounding up the under eye brushes is this Koyu Fupa 11. This is a conceal plus highlight brush. I don't really use it for highlight because I have brushes like this one or this one to do it. And I don't really use this one to conceal my under eyes either because I have this one, as well as the Sue Devitt eye base brush to do my under eye concealer. So I am going to be destashing this one as well. And then lastly, to round out my foundation brushes in all, are these two Cinema Secret Filbert brushes. Well, technically only this one is the Filbert. It's this sort of tongue, Filbert refers to this sort of rounded tongue shape. And then this one is made of Kolinsky, and it's kind of tapered here. So this one is good for that initial foundation spreading stage. So if you don't like using your fingers, look for a Filbert brush like this. Use that to pick up foundation off a palette or whatever, squirt it straight on from the pump under here. Spread this all over your face, and then go in with a blending brush to kind of smooth the whole mess out and blend your foundation in. So that's what I would use this brush for primarily, as well as for layering stuff. So if I'm layering cream blushes, I'll take a little bit and then just like layer it on with one side. And if I decide I apply blush too much, I flip it over to the other side where there's still foundation left over on the brush, and then I use that to blend out the edges. So that's what this is, are these type of Filbert shapes are really nice for. They come in a whole bunch of brands in synthetic. Look for one that is fairly compact and fairly stiff. This one can afford to be so big because it's Kolinsky and it has a nice spring back. If it was made of like a synthetic like this, it'd probably have to be at least a centimeter thick to kind of have that same property. So that's what these flat brushes are for. This one is just basically an art brush. So this one is like for the sharpest cream contour you can possibly do, as well as cream highlight. This one I don't really use much, but whenever I do have something involving body paint, I pull this one out a lot, especially if I'm drawing lines. It just traces really well. And also it's just like a big spatula where I can just spread makeup really, really fast. So thank you for watching. That was all of my foundation brushes, and surprisingly, I'm only getting rid of a couple of them. Well, not getting rid of. I am putting up for adoption only a couple of them. So again, that would be this brush, the Bobbi Brown full coverage face brush, as well as the Urban Decay optical blurring, and the Fupa 11. The reason why I'm getting rid of these brushes is because I already have domed brushes that I like and prefer much more for cream foundation. And these work better, these two work better for liquid foundation. So that's why those two are leaving the collection. Otherwise, I only really have two dome-shaped foundation brushes left because this one is a blush brush. It's not a foundation brush, no matter what the label says. I mean, just look at how flexible that is. I guess you could use it for liquid. You would get a whole bunch in deep into the brush quite quickly. So kind of a fail on the naming, but otherwise great blush brush. So thank you for watching. I should be back shortly. I'm going to do all of my round blush brushes. I have my blush brushes separated into round and paddle, and I know some people like one shape better than the others, so that's how I'm going to be doing that. So I'll just be doing round today and hopefully be back tomorrow with paddle brushes. So I'll just answer questions really quickly and then hop over to do the next video in a couple minutes. You're welcome. I'm glad you appreciate watching my videos. I have no idea why the camera keeps doing that. It's probably because of the lighting. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Oh yeah, somehow cheat the algorithm. I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to tags and SEO, so any help would be appreciated. And if anyone can explain why my camera keeps doing this, it would also be appreciated. I tried changing out the towel. Maybe that's the problem, or maybe it's the shininess that's the problem that's making it go out of focus. But whatever. We're going to try to do this because I really need to get these brushes shown so you can really kind of pick out the reasons for why certain brushes are better than others. Someday I'll figure out how to get this to behave. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.